Now, welcome to the webinar, and this is on building villages for newborn mothers. We have a bunch of people on live, and this will be recorded. I can actually hear in the background. It's early in the morning here, and I think my kids will be waking up, so you might hear them getting out of bed. Now we're going to do a bunch of slides, which I'm going to put up on your screen in just a minute. You can ask your questions in the chat, and I will make sure I get to all of those questions at the very end. If you are watching the recording, you should see a little contact form below this webinar recording, and you can ask your questions there, and me or my team. We are getting a lot of emails at the moment because we're doing big enrollment, and so it might be me or my team. I have a couple of people, Emily and Katie, who check my emails as well and help me to make sure we can answer them really quickly. So let's get started. I am going to just share my screen. So you should be able to see my screen now. So just let me know in the chat if you can see and hear me still, and then we can get started. So just give me a big hell yes if you can see and hear me. Danica raised her hand. That might be a mistake. If you just want to just jump in the chat and just chat there, that's the best way to do it. Okay, I'm going to assume that you can see and hear me. I'm just going to ask, actually, just want to make sure before we get started. Can you see and hear me? I have had webinars before where people can't see and hear me, and it can obviously be a little bit challenging. Yes, thank you. Excellent. Alice says, I'm doing PhD project in Auckland looking at alternative maternal practices, mostly spirituality and connection to land in women's reproductive well-being. That sounds amazing. I would love to know more about your work, Alice. Cool. All right, you guys can keep chatting in the chat, and I will get back to your questions at the end. So this is a free training on a new paradigm in postpartum care, and particularly this is one of the most popular trainings I have done. I've done it many times. And we have nearly 500 people registered today. So it's a really obviously is it's a big topic. It's very important. And what we're covering is how to build villages for newborn mothers. I just want to start with an acknowledgement of country. I wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land where I am right now, which is the Whadjuk Noongar people, and also pay my respects to their elders, past, present and future, and also extend this to other First Nations people across the world, so wherever you are right now. Now, here's what you will learn in today's webinar. We will be looking at how you can create life-changing postpartum premium packages for your clients. And this is, you know, once you start building villages, this is a real game changer. You can start to create bigger change, you know, and obviously that means you can charge more money because you really are getting big results for your clients. It will also help you to engage her family and friends so that you're increasing the impact of your work beyond your time. So I see so many people in our area, they work because they love this, they're passionate about this, and you probably feel this too, is your life's work. But it's unsustainable. Oh, someone says they can see but not can hear but not see. That's fine because you won't miss anything. The slides are really mostly to keep me on track. But I see so many people get burnt out because they give and give and give, and it's not sustainable. So I really want to teach you how to build villages so that you can leverage your time and you can work smarter, not harder. Also, I want to help to connect you with your connect your clients with other like-minded mums. This is a really powerful thing. You can help to normalize her experience with that peer support and give her the gift of lifelong friendships. I know that that many of my really good friends are people I met when I had my first baby, you know, so actually building that support network goes a long time into the future. My daughter, eldest is 7. So, so when you do build these villages and connect women with each other, the power of your work continues for many, many years after you've even, you lost contact with them, and still it's making waves in their lives. I'm going to teach you a little bit about hormones too, which is one of my favourite topics, and which hormones can decrease the mother's receptivity to help, and how to give your clients a village building oxytocin boost. So we'll be talking a little bit about that too. Now, first of all, some of you might be new to me. Some of you might know me well, although I have to say there's not very many familiar names here today. So, so I'm assuming we haven't met a lot before. So I want to let you know a little bit about what I do. So I am on a mission to create a renaissance in the way that we care for newborn mothers, but I can't do this on my own. So what happened for me was I mentioned earlier that I started this work before I had my own baby, and so I'm just going to double check that this is recording. Yeah, it is recording, I think. So I started to work before I had my own baby. I was actually really passionate about Ayurveda, and I wanted to study Ayurveda. And I found this beautiful course with Isha Oakes, who some of you may be familiar with. And that was specifically postpartum Ayurvedic care. And I studied and I loved it, and it was amazing. And I had my prac clients, and I did some more study. And then I had my own baby, and I realized that it was like I had not at all in any way been prepared for this. All of this time had really it hadn't really made a big impact on my own personal experience. So I knew I was missing a piece of the puzzle. So after I had my own baby, I continued studying. I studied harder. I think I've done more than 5 postpartum doula trainings so far, and couldn't really find the answers I was looking for there. So I continued to look outside of this standard postpartum arena, and I started looking deeper into neuroscience and anthropology. And what happened was I ended up creating a completely new way of doing things. This is Gina. I worked with Gina when she had her 3rd baby, and she says, I found out I was pregnant with our 3rd child, and it was a shock. The pregnancy wasn't planned. I was very nervous about how I would cope after having a 3rd child. I can honestly say that the 6 weeks after the birth of James were the calmest, most restful and nourishing weeks of my life. The experience was so wonderful that many days I even considered that I might have a 4th child just to experience the blissful love and calm again. So once I really realized how to merge these 2 realms, the more traditional medicine and culture and anthropology and understanding that side of things, but also merging it with the neuroscience and the hormones and what we now know about how brains work, that's when I started getting these kinds of results. And women would say this to me quite frequently, that the first 6 weeks after their baby's born were the best 6 weeks of their life. And it's not something that you actually commonly hear. More commonly, I hear the opposite, from people who I'm not working with, but from mums in general in our culture, that those first 6 weeks are hell, and you just have to grit your teeth and get through it. But that is certainly not my experience, and it's not the experience of the women that I've been working with. Now, Gina is actually pregnant again with her 4th, and I am going to be supporting her through the birth of her 4th baby in December, which is really, really exciting. So what happened for me next? I then began to put my work online. So now I'm looking for birth professionals who really feel as passionately about changing the way that newborn mothers experience the transition to motherhood as I do. So when I began to implement this, and my clients started getting these amazing results, this incredible transformation, this peace and joy in motherhood that they were looking for, I realized I had discovered something that I needed to share with a bigger audience. I really wanted to get my message out there in a much bigger way. So I decided to scale down my work with postpartum clients, and I don't do a lot of that now, and start training professionals. So I first started training professionals in my local area, and I ran a couple of trainings here in Perth, and then I put my training online, and now I have about 150 students from all over the world, And together, you know, obviously I'm sharing what I've learned, but more powerful than that, we've created this collective, this group of women with a shared mission, and the results are so powerful when we have this kind of peer support and networking and this sisterhood, you know, of women who deeply care about the same thing. So that's been really a really amazing experience for me. So this is one of my students. Her name is Julianne, and she says, "Thank you so much for this course. I feel like I'm gushing, but truly as a birth professional who has taken numerous trainings over the past 20 years, I can honestly say there is so much wisdom and transformative power in this one course. Thank you, thank you, thank you." I was absolutely blown away when Julianne shared this with me. She has been a childbirth educator and doula for 20 years. She has 7 children of her own, and yeah, the fact that my course was such a big paradigm shift for her was really, well, made me feel very proud. So that's been really nice. Oops, why is that there? Really, really amazing to hear that. So what is this paradigm shift? What is this information that I discovered, and what am I going to share with you today? So I'm going to start with the ancient her story of motherhood. So instead of history, we're going to have a little look at a more feminine perspective, and particularly where it all went wrong. So today we're going to travel back in time. We're going to have a little look at how humans have been mothering for thousands of years and see what they do differently to what we do now. So I hope that makes sense to you. It's not that I'm doing the noble savage thing. I don't want to romanticize ancient cultures. There were many things that they did wrong. You know, for example, a lot of traditional cultures believed that colostrum was poisonous. You know, so we have to obviously look at these things intellectually and with a grain of salt, and not just take it all as, you know, this perfect world. But what is important to look at when we go back in time and look at the history of humans is evolution, and how our brains and our bodies have come over time to expect a particular set of circumstances, and how suddenly these circumstances have changed. And when our environment changes so far from the ideal environment that we've evolved to expect for many, many generations, then this can lead to stress and to sort of some negative outcomes. Now, who's heard of the obstetric dilemma? If you work in the area of childbirth education, you know, or birth attendants, or any of those kinds of fields, then you've probably heard of this concept of the obstetric dilemma. Now, for a long time, scientists thought that when humans became upright, then the female pelvis couldn't grow any larger because it would lose efficiency. They thought we literally wouldn't be able to move as fast and as efficiently if we had wider hips. And so because we were standing upright, our hips had to stop getting wider, which means our babies had to be born when they were still small enough to fit through that small pelvis. Now, for centuries, science has been the realm of men, and now for decades, this has been our paradigm. We look at things from a male perspective, but this often skews the data. And much of this is based on this faulty assumption, this really culturally specific assumption that women's bodies are somehow less than men's bodies. You know, that men's bodies are the primary to, you know, the standard, and that women's bodies get compared to the men. So let me know if this is making sense for you. So we see that the way that data then is interpreted, that is, women's bodies are a variation, an imperfection compared to male bodies, which is why they thought that those childbearing hips must be less efficient than a man's perfect hips, you know. Now, fortunately, now more women are entering fields such as science and anthropology, history, research, and we're having important new ideas and perspectives. We're seeing things for the first time from this feminine perspective. And this is why I get really, really excited when I come across brilliant women in these kinds of fields, and one of them is a woman called Holly Dunsworth, and she is a scientist and researcher. She's an anthropologist, and she has found that there is no evidence of loss of locomotive efficiency when the pelvis becomes wider. So this assumption that we've been making for so long is based on no fact at all. Okay, so women's hips could get larger and we would still be able to run, you know, fast and move efficiently. So what is it? Why are our babies born early? And this is what Holly Dunsworth has to say. She says, we absolutely have larger brains at birth compared to all other primates, and we have similar or even long, not short, gestation compared to the rest too. So we're understanding that compared to primates, we do have larger brains, but we actually have shorter comparative gestations. And Holly says, so I say, and others do too, that we're not born early at all. We just have lots more brain growth to do after we are born than other primates. So have a think about that. It means our babies have more brain development to do after they are born. So this is what Holly and many of her peers are now building theories around, and one of them is that our brains were designed to develop in a more social environment. So if you think about the baby in the womb, then it's quiet, it's calm, the temperature is regulated, it's dark, there's very little change and there's very little stimulation for the brain. And when you think of that baby after birth, there's lots of stimulation. There are cuddles and kisses, there's singing, there's skin on skin, stroking, rocking, shushing. There's so much love and so much emotional development that happens after a baby's born. And this is what they now think makes the difference, that this is why babies are born at the perfect time. It's actually the perfect time for their optimal brain development. It's not early because women's bodies are imperfect. You know, women's bodies are part of nature's grand plan to create this massively emotional species of animals. Compared to other animals, humans have incredibly complex bonding systems and connections and trust and that sort of thing. And that early brain development outside of the womb is how humans have become the empathetic and compassionate people that we are today. So let me know if that's making sense so far, and if you have any questions about those concepts, because I'm going to go quite fast. I'm going to cover a lot. Now, this is a picture of the Afay Pygmy tribe, and none of this could have happened. Have a look at that baby in that picture and how many people are all standing around. None of this could have happened if we didn't start out with sharing the care of our human babies. And this is called alloparenting. So because this human baby is born so vulnerable and so needy so early in their brain development, then it is obviously requires a huge emotional investment, which is very difficult for one mother alone to give. And so 1.8 million years ago, somewhere in the African savannah, some highly social apes began to share the care of their babies. So this may seem like a small thing, but what it did was set us on this evolutionary path to becoming the empathetic and compassionate humans that we are today. And this shared care is called alloparenting. Sometimes it's called cooperative breeding. And it's actually very rare among the animal kingdom. If you think about other species of animals, they sometimes eat their other young, you know, like the other mother's babies, you know, or steal them for themselves, or, you know, they can't really be trusted. Whereas humans very happily hand their babies around to other humans and know that, you know, it's 99.9% of the time it's going to be totally fine. So why, you know, we trust each other so much. And this is a quote from the book The World Until Yesterday by Jared Diamond. He says, newborns in the Afay Pygmy tribe are passed around from one adult carer to another on average 8 times every hour. Babies are cared for by 14 different adults in 8 hours and spend only 40% of their time with their biological mothers. 40% of their time with their biological mothers, and they're cared by 14 different adults in a day. I just think that's mind-blowing. And if you think of the way that we think of as mothering these days, this really hyper-intensive mothering that we expect now, it's no wonder that mothers are so exhausted and burnt out and overwhelmed. It is a huge job. So what happened next? We lost our villages, and that's how we got to where we are today. So about 200 years ago, industrialisation and urbanisation reorganised families. So this was a really sudden change from, from many generations of hunter-gatherer families to suddenly, in a short time, about 200 years ago, it's changed very rapidly. People moved from the country to the city for work, which means they were moving away from their extended families. And this was really the beginning of nuclear families. And around the 1900s, science and medicine were really picking up speed. So this is when we began to, have men in lab coats doing research and all sorts of things. And suddenly men were encroaching on what were more traditionally feminine ways of knowing, feminine ways of doing things like childbirth and breastfeeding, instead of being this oral knowledge that would have been passed from, grandmother to mother, then to her daughter and onwards. This was lost, and science, because of the movement of the people, we lost that oral tradition when we moved away from our extended families. And so of course science jumped in and filled in that gap. Now, just as my internet connection's unstable, so just maybe jump in the chat, let me know if you can still see and hear everything. That would be really reassuring for me. So scientific mothering taught us that baby's temperament and personality was set by nature. All good. Thank you. So then we had this idea from science, from men, excuse me, that our baby's personality and temperament didn't change. That you were born with this this baby who is fixed in nature, and then a mother's job was simply to raise their children to be obedient. And so a large number of experts started teaching things like schedules and routines. Mothers were told, that you can only cuddle your baby for 10 minutes a day, or only breastfeed on one side every 4 hours, thinking that our only job as mothers was to raise humans that were going to be obedient, rather than understanding this intense emotional investment that is actually what makes humans so powerful. And so different. And of course, when we lost our villages, newborn mothers suffer the most. So when we mother without our villages, then babies failed to thrive. So obviously, at first what happened was, when we had these strict routines and schedules, was babies actually didn't cope very well with this. And then luckily around the 1970s, then attachment theory came into fashion, and and there was a lot of research being done in those areas, which was probably maybe to do with the first women stepping into science as well. And this was a really important time for babies. So babies' quality of life has drastically improved because we now have a much better understanding of babies' needs. And we understand that this emotional investment is actually really crucial for babies' survival, and obviously to thrive and be happy in life, but also just to survive. Babies do need this emotional investment. So this is really great news for babies. But what was not so great news is that then mothers alone were being asked to do this job. We still don't have our villages. So mothers are expected to provide all of this emotional input that was traditionally provided by the village, by those 14 adults in 8 hours in the AFO Pygmy tribe. And it's not an easy job to do alone. And it's no wonder that so many mothers found themselves, and still do, in the position of being exhausted and burnt out, and alone and overwhelmed and confused, because what is being demanded of mothers now is quite simply impossible. There's no way that one human mother can meet her baby's needs alone without sacrificing her own health and sanity. And we know this, we've had this experience as mothers. So we still don't understand what a newborn mother needs. And too many mothers are winding up divorced, depressed, formula feeding, and then worst of all, we actually get the blame for this too. So here's how it looks now. Right now in Australia, 80% of new mothers feel exhausted and overwhelmed. 2/3 of Australian mothers don't meet their own breastfeeding goals. And I find this statistic really heartbreaking because these women want to breastfeed. Oh, I think I can hear someone jumping on. If you could just mute yourself, that would be awesome. Sorry, I've lost my thing, but anyway, lost my ability to mute you. But if you could mute yourself, that'd be cool. Thank you. 2/3 of mothers. So the point is they're trying to breastfeed. They want to breastfeed. These are good, kind-hearted women, but they are not getting the support and the information that they need to be able to breastfeed. Let me have a look what else we've got. The leading cause of maternal death, this is the most tragic of all, is suicide. So this is true in Australia, and as I've been doing these webinars all over the world, people are telling me it is also true in Canada, in New Zealand, in the United States. You know, and maybe there's a few people from Europe on the call today. You might know whether or not this is true for you too. The leading cause of maternal death is suicide. So we are keeping mothers alive physically and emotionally. They are wrecked. You know, there's no other way to put it. We are not taking care of a mother's emotional needs at all. And if you type postpartum into Google, then the top results include, sorry, I can't see my slide there, psychosis, hemorrhage, and depression. And this is really telling of what postpartum means in our culture. We don't have any concepts of postpartum care, postpartum support, postpartum needs, and instead postpartum is considered this hellish time that you just have to you know, grit your teeth and get through, just survive. Okay, so we've ended up in the position of having information overload. There have never been more books, videos, research and workshops on motherhood. We are suffering from information overload, but we still can't figure out our babies, and we are still not enjoying ourselves. We have not found this peace and joy in motherhood that should be so intrinsic, that should really be part of, you know, nature's blueprint for motherhood. It should be the happiest time of our lives. And instead we're finding ourselves you know, completely the opposite, feeling really, really awful, and then feeling guilty for feeling so bad about it, and feeling like maybe it's our fault and we're doing something wrong and blaming ourselves. So this is a really big problem. Now, why isn't information the answer? Because we're still trying to solve this feminine problem with masculine solutions. We're still, rather than turning to our bodies, to our intuition, to our babies, to our mothers, to our grandmothers, instead we're turning to books and research and information and Google and you know, numbers and charts and all of that kind of thing, and it doesn't work. What we need to do instead is build villages, and obviously our villages are not going to look like that picture anymore. But there are many things we can do in a modern context. So now I am going to, yes, Chelsea says she's going to go and take her baby who's up. Yes, there will be a recording if you need to go now. So obviously the villages won't look like this, but I'm going to share with you now 3 tips for building villages. And my first tip is to boost baby brain. Now, this is one of my favorite topics. If you haven't heard me talk about baby brain right now, you might be going like, that's a bit rude, Julia. That's not a very nice thing to say. Baby brain is not considered a positive thing in our culture, but I think we really need to reclaim our feminine wisdom, and the changes that happen in our brain are so powerful when we become babies. So if you're on my last webinar, I was talking about changes in plasticity and increases in oxytocin that really are nature's blueprint for this happiness, for this peace and joy in motherhood that so many women are missing out on now. And really, I always call this as the stage of loving and learning. Loving and learning. So the plasticity is the learning and the oxytocin is the loving. So what does that mean for us now? So oxytocin is the tend and befriend hormone. So if a woman has low oxytocin, then what that means is she's going to be less good at building villages, because women who have, and men, anyone who has lower oxytocin levels want to be more independent. They have an inability to ask for help. Sometimes they can't even accept help when it's offered. Low oxytocin causes us to be more competitive, more controlling, more judgmental. And so what that means is if oxytocin levels are low in a woman's brain, which so often happens in our culture, then it's really that all the village building in the world won't actually get through. You know, she's got to guard up. And you've probably met women and clients like this. Maybe you've experienced it yourself. I know I certainly had experiences of this myself as a mother, particularly before I understood this idea, these concepts. So the first step is to increase oxytocin, and then the village will naturally build itself. So yeah, it's a really important thing. So a lot of people think of oxytocin now, and feel free to ask questions. We're touching very, very briefly on a very complex subject in my training, Newborn Mothers Collective. We actually have 2 whole modules on understanding your brain. So if this is too brief and too quick, we can obviously go into more detail there, but also in the meantime, feel free to ask some questions. So a lot of people know oxytocin as the birth hormone, meaning quick birth, but actually it's for life and for love. So how do we increase oxytocin? Massage, laughter, cuddles, and a cup of tea. Basically, anything that brings you peace and joy will be increasing your oxytocin levels. So it's the same with your client. When you see a new client and you feel like she's got that guard up and she's not accepting help, she's not able to reach out, she's not connecting with her baby, with other mums, then the first step to building her village is going to be helping to get that oxytocin to flow. So let me know if you have any questions about baby brain. Step 2 is create a meal registry. Now, no more junk. We have so much, consumerism, plastic gimmicks made in sweatshops, material possessions, and really they just weigh us down, and they do not provide the solutions that we need in motherhood. So I suggest you can give a village instead. And one of my favorite tools for this is mealbaby.com. There are plenty of other online meal registries out there. If you start Googling, you might find a favorite. You might already have a favorite of yourself. Feel free to share in the comments. But I suggest that you can set up a meal registry for your clients before the baby's born. And then when the baby arrives and the mother's ready, you can send it out as a birth announcement. So you say, here's a photo of the baby and the weight and the date. And by the way, click here if you're happy to bring the mum a meal. And you will be surprised how many people really want to help in our culture and just don't know. They just don't know how. So, yes, you do the asking for them. That can make it a little bit easier. And in Meal Baby, you can set up things like dietary requirements, the address of the mother, number of serves that they need. You can have put some instructions like leave it in the fridge out the back or something. Don't knock. Just put it in the esky. And then it's all sorted. The mums just can sit back and enjoy. Now, step 3 is one of my absolute favorites, and it is facilitate a mums group. So I used to run a mums group as part of all of my postpartum doula clients. They would pay me $3,000 to $5,000 for my premium postpartum packages. And included in that package would be a monthly mums group for a whole year. Now, no one joined my programs for this mums group. Everyone thought that the best thing about my program would be me giving a massage or cooking food. But in fact, what happened was after the year was up and they graduated and I asked for feedback, they would always say, actually, the mums group was the most life-changing, most amazing, best bit of your program. So that's why I always included it. I don't take my packages apart and sell the pieces separately, because a lot of the time pregnant women don't necessarily know, particularly the first time, what it is that's going to really change their life.
Hi, I'm so sorry, Julia. Could you repeat that last thing? What is it that you include?
Sorry?
What was the last thing you said that you include? That you said the massage, the food. That it wasn't what women.
I don't know, the mothers group. So the people would think that they wanted the massage and the food. They were my two biggest supporters. So I cook Ayurvedic food, and I do Ayurvedic massage. So that's why people would think that they were buying my package. But in the end, ultimately, what would happen is they would develop these lifelong friendships and get this peer support. And the experience was so bonding for them and supportive for them, and help them to normalize their experiences, that actually that was the most powerful thing in the end. I hope that answers your question. I'm not sure if I said something else there.
Yes, thank you.
Cool, good. So the other thing, as soon as I tell people to run a mums group, they think I'm going to give them information. So don't do that. Don't do you can as well do this, but the thing is you don't need to do I'm going to teach them baby wearing or cloth nappies, or we're going to do a baby sign language class, or I'm going to teach them about breastfeeding or weaning or information. But what really mothers need is more space holding. What we would do is just sit in a circle. I would put a box of tissues in the middle of the room, and we would each take a turn to share challenges and highlights for the month. And that is a really transformative experience. And it really was my most popular offering ever. Within probably 6 months of launching the Mums Group, it was fully booked, sold out. And the beautiful thing about having it as a facilitated group is that there's no unwanted advice or judgment. As well, and it adds value without adding time. So this is one of the ways that you can really make this huge difference in mothers' lives. And it would be literally 2 hours a month that I would facilitate this group. Plus, it gets you more referrals because they're in contact with you for a longer time. So there are so many reasons to start a mothers group. I really, really suggest that you start adding this to your programs. Now, we're getting on now at 6:40, so I want to keep pushing through the slides, and then we'll come back for some Q&A and a chat at the end. But the really good news is you don't need to know everything, okay? You don't need to do everything. So many women I know don't step into their life's work because they feel like they don't have enough information. But what I've shared with you today is it's not the information that gives the results. Anyone can go on Google and find information. What they need is someone who really cares, someone who listens, and someone who helps to hold the space and facilitate friendships. So you can get really, really powerful results, even if you're just beginner in this space. And if you're an expert, often having this reminder that information overload is part of the problem can be a really, really good way to step out of being, an expert and step out of that advice paradigm and step into just that more feminine holding space. Now, does it break your heart when you see newborn mothers suffering, but you don't have the tools to guide them to peace and joy yet? And do you work with clients right up until the birth and then feel as though you are walking out on them when they need you the most? Or maybe you are stuck with the same package and the same price as other birth professionals in your area, and you can't figure out how to stand out from the crowd. So let me know if this feels like you, and if this is your life's work too. So I know that you really serve newborn mothers with deep love and devotion, and it really can be completely heartbreaking to see so many mothers struggling alone in a broken system without support. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about how you can take the next steps with me if you feel like this has been something that resonates with your beliefs and your philosophy. Then I'd like to share with you how you can learn more about these traditional ways of supporting women, but weaving that brain science and that understanding of baby brain as well. And I'd like to invite you to join the postpartum renaissance. So as we know, our culture values more masculine ways of learning, including analytical thought and problem solving. This has led to the commodification of motherhood and sabotage mothers by placing all of this information and the knowledge outside of mothers and in the hands of experts. I really, really strongly believe that it is time to change this paradigm. So Newborn Mothers Collective is the place to do that. It will change the way you work with pregnant women and newborn mothers, and you will get the tools and the support that you need to elevate women above this advice and experts paradigm, and show them how to make the first 6 weeks after childbirth the best 6 weeks of their life. So I would love to invite you to step into Newborn Mothers Collective. I will take you under my wing, and I will teach you everything that I know from 10 years and teaching over 150 students about postpartum care. So this course is called Newborn Mothers Collective, and it is for birth professionals who believe that birth is about making mums too. And we currently have students from Berlin, Ontario, Lisbon, Bristol, San Francisco, Sao Paulo. We had a few registrations overnight from 2 from Canada and 1 from the Netherlands. This really is a global movement. And in this world-class resource, you will get 12 continuing professional education points with the Australian College of Midwives. So let me know if you need professional development points and you're not sure if it's going to be valid for you, and I can look into that. You will get a printable certificate and a digital graphic for your website, and a listing on the Newborn Mothers Postpartum Professional Directory. So we have a worldwide directory on my website where mothers are looking for support. You'll get lifetime access to the 6 modules, which are delivered weekly. And they're in a private membership space. You can take as long or as short as you want to get through it. And you also have lifetime access to our private Facebook group. And there is a beautiful place for you to get peer support, mentoring from me, and to stay connected with this movement, with this renaissance. So this calling is really for you if you feel moved to work in this area and you don't know where to start. It's also for you if you have already trained but you want to do some professional development and take your postpartum skills to the next level. We have people in the course who are yoga teachers, childbirth educators, doulas, midwives, nutritionists, so many different women working with mothers in different capacities. But the thing we have in common is we really believe that birth is about making mums too. Now, the curriculum has been approved by the Australian College of Midwives. You can see there's 6 modules. The first one is Embracing Baby Brain, Oxytocin and Why Love Conquers All. The second one is about communication and why silence is golden. And those 2 really are about the science and more the history of motherhood. And then the third module is Birth is About Making Mums Too, and that's when we start to look at different cultures, and we'll visit the way that postpartum is celebrated and supported with rituals and care practices from many different cultures around the world. And then in module 4, we'll dive into Ayurveda and have a look at what Ayurveda can do for pregnancy and postpartum. Then we'll look at postpartum nutrition, which has an Ayurvedic component, but also just can teach you the basics of cooking for mums in their homes, cooking for mums in your home, running a meal delivery service and that sort of thing. And then finally, we'll have a little introduction to Ayurvedic bodywork. So this will teach you how to teach baby massage, self-massage for mothers, and we also have some belly binding classes in there too. Now, how does it work? So many people who do our course are mothers, and I have 3 children myself. My youngest is 1 year old. I can just hear him getting up for breakfast. So you can do this in your own time. It's really important to me to make this course really accessible. So each lesson is presented in video, audio, and text. So if you prefer to read, you can. If you want to watch the video while you're folding the washing, you can. If you want to listen to the audio whilst you're taking your kids for a play at the park or driving around or walking your dog, you can totally do that too. But it also includes many tactile and hands-on activities and a lot of things that will help you to explore your own postpartum journey, and really figure out how to better support your clients. It's accessible from any computer, tablet or device. So just like this webinar, you can call in on your phone or your iPad. You can download it and take it with you if you go elsewhere. Now, I really, really love online courses. You can do it in your own time, in the comfort of your own home. You don't need a babysitter or a bra. In fact, I'm not even wearing a bra right now. So it really is a really great way for mothers to be able to study and continue their big dreams, their career, their professional development. Now, we're nearly done. We'll have some questions at the end, but this is Julian Taylor. She's joined a couple of months ago. She says, I'm just loving this course so much. I keep sitting and listening. It's just what I needed to hear in this area. I think what has spoken to me the most is not imposing my beliefs on the woman or what the system has to say on her. It's challenging, but such a powerful, essential tool that we need to hear over and over again. So thank you. And again, Julian and many people find that the course has a lot of personal value as well. Now, we have a live round of the program. You can actually join anytime and do it in your own pace, but it's a really good time to join right now, because in a couple of weeks, we'll be doing 6 live Q&A calls, which means that you'll have a chance to go deeper with your learning with me, get real clarity and ask all your questions as you learn. You still have lifetime access, so if you don't keep up, that's fine. We're also going to have 3 exclusive webinars. The first one will be by me on teaching baby brain, teaching breastfeeding the baby brain way. So no more charts, no more rules, no more routines, you know, and no more diagrams, no more books, but it's really about helping women to get into that more intuitive, flowing oxytocin side of things. We'll have an exclusive webinar with Dr. Kathleen Reynolds. She has a PhD and she's a psychologist on how to support mothers through post-traumatic stress disorder after birth. That is a really, really powerful presentation, and I've seen her do it live, and I'm really excited to include it in the course in the live round. And the third exclusive webinar is on supporting families after grief and loss with Jodie Moss. Now, Jodie Moss is another person who I've seen do her work, her presentation live, and she's got some really amazing tips. I personally have had a client who experienced stillbirth of her twins, and I wish I had had these skills. If you work with newborn mothers, it is just a matter of time before you come across someone who has post-traumatic stress disorder or who loses a baby, and you need to be prepared with these skills so that you can support them through that time in their lives. So that's the live round. Now, there's a 7-day money-back guarantee. So I really work with professionals who are deeply committed to serving newborn mothers, who this really is their life's work. So I know that you know that you are going to commit to this course wholeheartedly. And so my commitment to you is that this course will meet your expectations and even surpass them. It truly is a paradigm-changing course. And as I mentioned earlier, there are people in the course who've been doing this work for 20, 30 years and still find this course has completely blown their minds. So I'm really, really sure that you're going to love it. I'm so sure that if you start the course and you do the first module or 2 and you think, nah, I'm not learning anything new, Julia doesn't really have anything interesting to say, then I will give you your money back. You just have to complete a feedback survey letting me know why the course didn't meet your expectations, and I will refund you. Now, the course is now available at $100 off. This is an early bird price, and the price will be going up tomorrow by $100. So I'm going to share that link with you so that you can go and join the course there, and do that soon, because the price right now is 497 Australian dollars. It will be plus GST for Australian residents, or 419 US dollars. So you can choose whatever currency you prefer to work with. And as I mentioned, you can, the price is going up on the 30th, which is tomorrow, my time. You'll see a little countdown ticker. So if you need to go and just, you know, sleep on it or check with your husband, just check the little ticker on that countdown page so that you know actually how much time you have left before the price goes up. Now, this is Nikki. She did my training live in Perth when I did it, I think the second time a few years ago. She says, I had a wonderful birth experience with the birth of my daughter, but the postpartum was like a hurricane. It was hell. Something has been disrupted within me since I began eating differently. It's like I've stirred up the dark wounds that never healed after giving birth. I thought I had a pretty good understanding of oxytocin and its role for childbirth and breastfeeding, but silly me, I had never thought to apply its principles to everyday life. I see this so often. People who work in the birth world get so fixated on birth, and I think birth is incredibly important, but we also need to look beyond birth and realize that birth is really just the beginning of this life-changing transformational journey, and that we really can't stop our work there. Now, when you join, many people who do my course have never done an e-course before, and that's totally okay. It's very easy. So I'll just step you through. I've just got a few more slides to share with you, and then we can do some questions. But when you join, when you click on that link, you'll be sent to this page. You can enter your details and click complete purchase. then you'll be taken to you'll get instant access. So this is what it will look like. You'll be able to click straight through and immediately watch the first module. There's, you can actually start right now if you're feeling like, woohoo, I'm pumped, I want to do it. But if you're not ready to start, you'll get this email with your login information, and you'll get access for life in this membership space here to the 6 modules. You can go through as fast or as slow as you like, and that's really important to remember. There's no time limits at all. You can do the course in a weekend, or you can take a year or 2. The next step is you will see here that the courses are available in video, in audio. You can download them. There's transcripts, there's worksheets. You can download all of the course as podcasts and listen on the go. You will also get access to this Facebook group, which is a really, really powerful community full of women who are also on this same path, have this same mission. And then later on, once you're ready, you could do this graduation quiz. It's really just a completion quiz. It's not a stressful test, but it's just to make sure that you have actually done the course and completed the modules. You'll get this completion certificate that you can print out. You'll get this little graphic that you can put on your website, and you'll also then be eligible for a free directory listing. Okay, now, the last question I want to ask you is, if not now, then when? I know so many women who want to do this work, but they have many blocks about not being good enough, not knowing enough, not being ready. But really, I think when so many other mothers are suffering, then we have a sort of an obligation to overcome some of these internal blocks, these beliefs about ourselves not being good enough or perfect enough or skilled enough or knowledgeable enough, to overcome these blocks and step into our life's work. So that's it. Your investment again is $497 US, or $419. $497 Australian, or $419 US, and the price is going up tomorrow. So that's all. I am going to stop the slides now and check in with you all and see if you have any questions. So just bear with me while I stop screen sharing. Okay, I should be back on your screen now. You should see my lovely face. So let me know in the chat if you have any questions. If you're on the phone, I think you maybe don't have chat. So then you can just unmute yourself and jump in. But it looks like everyone's okay. We haven't had too many questions, so I hope that I have explained myself well, and that you all understand. I'm just going to scroll back up and just check. Midnight in Serbia. Oh yes, hello.
Oh, hi Julia, it's Angela here.
Hi Angela.
I think I've had an email from you. I'm just curious, do you have many women doing it that aren't midwives? Like, my background is early childhood teaching a while ago. I've been out of that for a little while, but it is something that I just really, it resonates what you're saying. But I'm just wondering, like, as far as getting clients would prefer people that have a midwifery background?
No, not at all. In fact, I would say most people are not midwives in the course. We definitely have midwives doing it for their professional development, for their jobs in hospitals, and also for private practice. But actually, Angela, someone joined recently who, I'm not going to be able to explain this very well, but what her work was in working with attachment issues and trauma in older children. So she was working with like primary school age children, and she was finding that so many of the issues that she was working with really did go back to that birth and early postpartum time, that first couple of years of life. And what she realized was she actually really wanted to also have that knowledge of postpartum support so that she could, try and do some preventative work as well. So yeah, if that answers your question, Angela, definitely there are people who do this who are nutritionists, who are physios, there are people who do counseling, and some people do this work as a traditional postpartum doula. They go into people's homes and they cook and massage and that kind of thing. And there are other people who do only group work, do more like teaching or public speaking. Some people are even creating e-courses. So there are many, many possibilities.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Sounds great.
Good, Angela. I hope you can join us. Cool. Anyone else? Do let me know if you've got any questions. I'm just about to sign off, and I'm going to go and. Oh, is there someone else there?
Hello. Hi.
Hello. Who's this?
Hi. Hi. My name is Shauna. I'm in from the U.S. I actually had a technical question, but I emailed you directly because I feel like it's not probably for this forum. But
That's okay.
I sent it to you through email. So do you check those emails, the ones that you send out, or that? I'm not sure if I have your correct email address.
We might have a little bit of a backlog. Why don't you just ask me now? Because I'll jump in the inbox now. I've actually got a couple of other people replying to emails as well, but it might take us a few days to get back to them right now. So go ahead and ask here. There's probably other people.
Oh, okay. It was more just a financial question. Would you be able to do payment plans?
There is actually going to be a payment plan after this early bird pricing expires. Then we will release a payment plan, but it will be a little bit more expensive. Off the top of my head, I think it's going to be 3 payments of $199.
Right.
So it's a little bit more because it's the full price payment plan. So we did have an early bird payment plan, but that's finished a couple of weeks ago.
Okay. So so I shouldn't sign up yet if I need to do a payment plan?
Yes, if you prefer a payment plan, it's a little bit more expensive overall, but yes, there will be a payment plan in a couple of days.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you.
No worries at all.
Thank you.
Anyone else got any questions? Nope, sounds like we're all good. Okay, I can still hear there's a few people. You can always ask questions at support@newbornmothers.com, and me or my team, Katie and Emily, will get back to you as soon as possible. Okay, I'm going to head off, but if you did miss anything, or if I missed anything, you can ask me questions later on or hit me up on Facebook, and I look forward to seeing a few of you in the collective. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.